Alright, welcome back everybody to part 2. This video is going to cover my process for how I draw hair. So we're going to go over a couple different types of hair: straight hair, curly hair, coily, and wavy. We're not going to touch on hairstyles, so I'm not going to be teaching you how to draw braids or ponytails or any kind of styled hair. It's just going to be the basics of how I draw hair. I'll probably go over braids and different hairstyles in a more in-depth video sometime in the future. For now, we're just focusing on the basics. Alright, so let's go ahead and dive in. Before we jump in, I am just gonna say, I'm sorry, I swear I tried to fix my nail polish. It was not coming off with the nail polish remover, and it's like chipped so much that I can't just paint over it, so please try to ignore how awful my nails look. Alright, so we're gonna jump into the first one here, which is gonna be type 1, or long straight hair. So I'm gonna go ahead and grab another pencil color, and we're gonna do this on another layer, just to be safe. Alright, so the first thing that I'm gonna do is I'm going to find the hairline, kind of determine how big the forehead is gonna be, and start right around here. It usually kind of arches upward. You can make the forehead shape any shape or size you want. Okay, and then you're also going to have a little bit of a hairline down here. So about right there is where I'm going to have the hairline start. And from here, the next thing that I usually like to do is kind of determine the shape of the hair that I want. So rather than jump right in and do just a bunch of long strands of hair, I find it easier at this stage to kind of think of the hair as one big block, and then we can start chipping away at that block and making smaller chunks of hair. So what I mean by that is I start with the outside shape of the hair. We're gonna come a little bit up off of the skull that we've drawn here, because hair has volume. You know, every type of hair is different. Maybe some hair doesn't have as much volume, some hair has a bunch of volume. In this case, there's a little bit of volume, which means the top of the hair is gonna be a little bit away from the skull there. And I'm gonna come around and just kind of encompass the skull. Okay. And we have kind of a shape here. So it looks a little bit funny at first, but this just kind of helps me decide the direction the hair is gonna go and the shape of the hair. It makes it a little bit easier when you start breaking it down like this. So for this type of hair, it's gonna be long and straight, but I am gonna add just a little bit of like flowiness to it. It's kind of fun to add a little bit of movement to the hair, even if your character is just standing still. It just adds a little bit more life and dimension to the drawing. Now that we have the outer bit of the hair decided, we're gonna come inward and work our way out again. So I kind of want to decide how I want the bangs or top of the hair to fall. I think I want her to have maybe a middle part. So let's just mark that right there. And let's bring a line up and then down. And then just make sure that it's all meeting in that middle part. Depending on the type of hair you're doing, kind of figuring out where the character's hair parts is gonna help you a lot when you're drawing the hair. This can kind of help when you're working on the outer bits of the hair, because it gives you like an anchor point, essentially. And I like to make sure that the outer edge of the hair is not often a perfectly smooth line, because you do have different sections of hair that are going to create these uneven lines, which again just adds more visual interest to the drawing. Kind of clean up some of that line there, And now, again, we're gonna kind of think of the hair as chunks. So we have one chunk over here. We're gonna have a chunk in the back, essentially, one that kind of goes behind her shoulders and her body. And then we'll have a little bit of hair over here, so we'll make this our other chunk. So we've kind of refined our shape a little bit. Now I think what I'm gonna do is turn the opacity down just a little bit there, so we're not confusing ourselves too much. And let's come back up to the hairline here. And I'm going to start adding in some more lines. Now, depending on where your hair is, if your character has the hair tucked behind their ear or up in something, you want the hair to kind of follow that curve. So in this case, the hair is going behind this character's ear, which means we kind of want to take it back there. It can start anywhere up here, but it is going to be affected by this ear because it's tucked behind it. So we have some lines kind of coming down and stopping at the ear. When they come out from underneath the ear, they're going to kind of... what's the word I'm looking for here? They're just going to be free. They're going to be bits of hair that come out. So we're going to bring the ear... we're going to bring the hair from the ear kind of out, and it's going to come in front of the neck here before it goes back behind the shoulder. So now we kind of have this chunk figured out. I'm going to go ahead and start adding a bit more detail. One thing that I really like to do that I feel like adds a lot of life and movement to your drawing is adding little bits of hair that kind of come off of the main chunk of hair. So we'll take a bit of hair coming down here, and we're gonna break off just a little bit here. And usually I'll kind of erase a bit so it looks like it's starting from the same chunk of hair, breaking off for a little bit, and then coming back into that main chunk of hair. Let's do that over here. Clean that up just a little bit. And that alone can really help add some life and movement to the hair, just adding those little bits that kind of break off of the main hair. Okay, so since this bit of hair behind here, this chunk of hair, is going behind the shoulders, we're gonna imagine that it's starting up here, there's a line coming down, and then it's being pulled this way since it's behind the shoulders. And something that kind of helps me, thinking of the hair as chunks rather than a bunch of individual strands. Thinking this way can kind of help you stay away from doing spaghetti hair where you just kind of add a bunch of strands, which is fine in a lot of art styles, but for mine in particular, I find it just kind of doesn't match. So to stay away from that, these chunks really help. And I do my best not to add too many strands. I try to add some variation to the lines when I'm drawing in the hair. So I'll draw one line here, a couple lines together here, one here, and they'll vary in thickness as well. That can also kind of help break it up a bit, but not make it too complicated. And we're gonna go ahead and with these strands that kind of break off of the main body of hair, I like to kind of make them curl a little bit. And to do that, I usually just add a line that kind of follows one edge of this strand and then jumps over to the other edge. And I usually like to add two, and they'll kind of be closer at one part and then separate and become a little bit farther apart as they jump to the other side. And that kind of gives that illusion that the hair is twisting around itself. Let's go ahead and do that over here as well. Jump to the other side, jump to the other side. And then you've got that twist. So I just want to touch on that twist a little bit more really quickly, just kind of explain what I mean. So if you just imagine in your head like a piece of ribbon that is coiled, or maybe even easier to imagine, a slinky, right? You know that it is going around and around and around as it comes down, and you can kind of imagine the parts of the slinky or the ribbon that are behind the parts in front. You can't see them, but you know that they are coming down and curling around to the front to where your eyes can see them again. So that's kind of what you want to imagine with these bits of hair. So by just drawing a few lines that start a bit higher and then kind of curve across and then downwards, it gives that illusion of the hair kind of twisting around itself. So keeping that kind of vision in my head has always just helped me whenever I'm drawing like these little sections or twists of hair, and hopefully they'll help you too. And that's basically it. You can add as much or as little detail to this as you want. Another fun thing can be kind of adding some strands that come over the face a little bit. And then of course you would want to erase the bits underneath the hair. And that's it for type 1, just long, straight hair. Okay, let's go ahead and move on to type 2, wavy hair. So we're gonna move down here. So for this example, we're also gonna go a little bit shorter just to kind of show how I draw pretty short hair. So first and foremost, let's go ahead and get that hairline drawn in to help us. Here we go. And for this example, I'm gonna go ahead and do some short and slightly longer wavy hair, just to give an example of how I do that really short hairstyle. So let's say maybe this side of the hair is a little bit longer. And then this side, let's say, maybe they have it a lot shorter, like they shaved it. So let's actually move her part a little bit more. So this is where the hair is gonna part. And we're imagining that this side is pretty short. So this is kind of what we're going for here. So now that I have that outer bit kind of planned out, let's go ahead and refine it a little bit. Let's fix the shape up here. Remember that we don't want it to be straight, especially in this case since we're going to be doing some wavy hair. And we're starting all of that hair at this part here. Let's also do some sort of bang. Something like that, maybe. Let's fix the outer bit here. For wavy hair, it's kind of the same thing where you just want to remember that it starts at the top and it's going to fall down with gravity. And depending on the length of the hair and whether there's a lot of hair or a little bit of hair, that's going to affect the weight, which means that's going to affect how it looks when it falls. So for example, there's quite a bit of hair on this side, which means there is quite a bit of weight, so it's falling pretty easily down the side of the face. Whereas on this side, because it's cut shorter, it's gonna kind of spike upward because the hair is a lot lighter and obviously shorter, therefore there's not as much weight to pull it down with gravity. Hopefully that makes sense. So let's finish up this side here. I kind of like the way that that looks, so now that we have the outside of this hair figured out, I'm gonna move to the inside and start adding some separate waves. Let's go ahead and add sort of a cutout here where maybe one wave will separate from the main block of hair. just kind of refine these other waves. So starting at this part, you've got much shorter hair. So I'm gonna kind of erase that hairline so that I can start drawing that in. And I'm doing the same thing here that I would do with longer hair. Even though this hair is quite a bit shorter, I'm kind of thinking of it in chunks and blocks rather than individual bits. So I'm kind of figuring out the outside shape, and then we'll work our way inside. Feeling pretty good about that. Just adding some different sizes and shapes of like hair breaking off. And then let's work our way inside. And again, to kind of avoid the overdrawn hair look, we're not gonna think too hard about the details. We're just gonna add like a few chunks of hair on the inside. Just to kind of avoid that over-detailed look of hair that doesn't quite suit my style. And I'm feeling pretty good about that. So let's go ahead and move on to type 3, or curly hair. So as with the other examples, I went ahead and added in a hairline there to start. And we're gonna start with the outer shape, which, because this hair is curly, I would imagine that it has a little bit more volume than like the straight hair, for example. So we're gonna start pretty far from the actual skull, because there's a lot going on with this hair type. Lots of curls to draw, plenty of volume. Okay, lots of just wavy and curly little shapes here to start, and then we'll kind of build off of that. So maybe let's imagine that she kind of has some bangs going on here, but she's got curly hair. So the bangs are gonna be also curly. To draw that kind of curly shape, I really just do a lot of like S shapes, if that makes sense. So lots of quick movements. We're not doing long strands like that. It's just a little bit easier if you kind of just keep your movements quick and simple. Don't overthink it. So for her, I'm gonna imagine her part would be in the middle, which would be about the top of her head. So let's go ahead and start with the side of the hair that is on the opposite side of the face. And for the top here, there's gonna be lots of little bumps and ridges because it's curly. Let's do a little bit of a kind of a window there where the hair separates a bit. And also add a little curly cue there because her hair is, I'm going to imagine her hair is very layered. So she's gonna have some longer bits of hair and then some shorter bits. So kind of like up in the bangs, she'll have some shorter bits of hair. So that'll kind of come down and curl on her face. And then also curl out a little bit. Then let's bring another curl out and let's do a little separation here. Like that. Okay. Kind of just keep refining the shape and the details until you like it. The beauty of curly hair is that it can kind of just be as quick and easy as you want it to be. You really don't have to overthink it because curly hair just does what it wants. Most of the time it's not going to be perfect curls, And I prefer that look because one, it's a lot more fun and easy to draw, but also it just looks so good. So don't overthink curly hair. I feel like it's really easy to stress about it, and just to kind of look at curly hair and go, wow, that's really daunting, but it's actually a lot of fun. You just have to make sure to be loose with it and kind of let it guide you and take you wherever it wants to go. Just like hair in real life sometimes. Just keep working at it, cleaning it up, and add some curly cues every now and then. Okay, I kind of like the way that that is shaped now, so let's go ahead and clean it up a little more. For the inside, we're just gonna draw some really wavy lines. They don't have to make perfect sense because hair doesn't always make perfect sense. But we just want to kind of give the illusion that there is tons of curly hair in here. Frankly, I don't even think I drew this as curly as I could have, but there are tons of different curl patterns you can have. So maybe this is just one of those curl patterns. Doesn't have a whole lot of ringlets. It can be fun to kind of vary the type of curl pattern too. So for example, there's one here that's a little bit more on the wavy side, and then if you kind of look at this one, it almost looks like it's more of a ringlet curl, the way the hair kind of wraps around itself. I'm envisioning kind of like Merida hair, you know, where it's like almost got every curl pattern in the book. That's like my favorite type of curly hair to draw, honestly. Okay, and I feel pretty good about that one. Drawing lots of separated little bits here. Okay, and there we have our curly hair. So we're gonna go ahead and move on to the fourth type of hair, which is gonna be coils. So that's like a much tighter ringlet or curl. And for this particular hairstyle, I'm gonna take it pretty far off of the scalp. It's gonna have a lot of volume and a lot of curl. So this one, rather than doing the kind of S shapes that we were doing for the curls, I'm actually doing a much softer, kind of just C shape, almost like a crescent moon shape, just to kind of get the shape that I want, which I think I want to be kind of like a circle around the head, a little bit more down here, sort of like up toward the bangs. So I really like this shape. And now what I'm gonna do with this particular type of hair, again to avoid drawing that kind of overcomplicated type of hair where you draw every individual strand, we're just gonna kind of give the illusion of a lot of curls and a lot of hair. And to do that, I'm gonna draw some coils that kind of come out of this larger shape of hair. And this is one of the most satisfying types of hair to draw. So you just kind of create these different ridges and shapes, and not we're not going to do it all around. We're going to still kind of follow the idea of gravity. So we're imagining this person has a lot of hair, but because they're in such tight coils, there's a lot of shrinkage happening. So down here is where you're going to see most of the coils, whereas up here it's kind of just going to be that fun, varied shapes, if that makes sense. So to do those coils, we're just going to continue with that kind of crescent moon shape and almost like a zigzag too. So here's the motion that I'm doing, making sure to get pretty, making sure that it gets thinner towards the end. So let's erase that. And also really varying the size of these coils. This is just such a fun type of hair to draw. Let's go ahead and add some up here. Kind of want to redo this one actually. There we go. Let's add some kind of coming out this way. And to be honest, that's kind of it. So I don't draw a lot of these individual curls on the inside of the hair because, again, I don't want to overcomplicate it. We want to kind of give the illusion of more of these coils being on the inside of the hair. So you can add more towards the edges and make sure that it kind of thins out as it gets to the middle. And what will help kind of with that illusion is when you're coloring this, either shading it in or fully rendering it, you just kind of want to keep that soft but textured look. That's going to make it look like there is lots of coils in this hair. Oh, so much fun to draw. Add a little bit more texture towards the edges. And then I also like to go in and add just some individual hairs that break off of that main shape. And there we go. We've got our coil-shaped hair. So I'm going to turn the opacity for these up, and I'm going to go ahead and erase the skulls just a little bit so you can kind of see better what's going on here. Especially for this one. And there we go. So we've got the different types of hair. We've got straight, wavy, curly, and then coily. Alright, so now that we've covered the basics, it's time to jump in and add some hair to the character that we've been working on. So for this character, I decided to go with long, straight hair. However, I wanted to add a little bit more visual interest. So I made it a little bit more flowy, almost like there's a breeze. And maybe when we come in later to draw the body, we can add like a cozy fall outfit. You're gonna see me do a lot of the same techniques where I add those separated pieces of hair and I kind of do the twisting motion like we talked about with the slinky and the ribbon. And I decided not to do any bangs or anything. I kind of just gave her a simple middle part, and I'm actually really happy with how it turned out. So I hope this video was helpful, and I hope to see you guys in the next video where we're gonna be talking all about everybody's favorite anatomy. So we'll see how that goes. It might not be up next week, just because next week, if you're watching this on the day that I upload this, next week is Christmas. So it may be a week or two late, but hopefully I will see you then. Thank you so much for watching, and yeah, that's it. Okay, bye!